Blackburnian warbler.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pando from WKNC, a student run nonprofit radio station based out of North Carolina State University. I'm here with Pamela Valfer, aka Kitty Craft, who has graciously agreed to do a very special interview with us today. Pamela, thank you so much for finding the time to talk with me.
It's so lovely to meet you, Pando. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, of course. For those of you who aren't familiar, Pamela Valfer is a Minneapolis native who began releasing music under the alias of Kitty Craft in the 90s, and after a 2 decade long hiatus, started re releasing her old tracks, quickly gaining a fan base for her dreamy and nostalgically twee trip hop beats. She also works as a multidisciplinary artist and professor in visual arts, but is currently preparing to tour the East Coast and is, most importantly, to me at least, performing at Cat's Cradle on October 29th, which at the moment actually looks like it's sold out. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yes, very excited. Very excited.
Um, but this isn't your first time touring. However, originally you toured as the lead singer for Saucer and then opened for a few shows for Chiba Mato in Japan, but that was 20 or so years ago. And
Mhm.
just last year you made your return to stage. Is that correct?
That's correct. Hmm.
How does it feel returning to the stage and performing for audiences after your hiatus?
I honestly didn't know what to expect at all, on which I think was good. I had zero expectations. I think when I started thinking about playing live, I was like, oh, if I play like, I was thinking about playing like renting a space or something with like 50 seats. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know, 50 people would want to come see me. And it's been a real whirlwind and a pleasant surprise. And so, yeah, reapproaching it, a few years later has been a, a unique experience and a really lovely experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. All my friends are, and we're so happy that it sold out. Um, have you noticed any cultural changes with audience etiquette or engagement from when you toured at the beginning of your career? So like for context, for me at least, I grew up in a time where like crowds and concerts consist largely of iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe also in part because of like social distancing practices kind of ingrained in us from COVID. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like crowds are very static.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're like just scared to dance for like the fear of being recorded or encroaching on other people's spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed any of this? And is there anything that you do to try and like engage the audience and ground them in your music and your performance?
I think that I, ironically enough, it isn't until this sort of Kittycraft 2.0 that I really found my audience. I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, I really never had a sense of like who liked my music before. Granted, I didn't do um extensive touring with Kitty Craft, so I really didn't put myself out there in that way. But I feel like the crowd is kind of like developed around me. And I will say very proudly that the people that I find that really appreciate my music is just hands down the most lovely humans I've ever met. Um, I everyone's a little bit of an oddball and in the best and most glorious way, and I really identify with them, and I feel honored to be around such cool people. In terms of like the atmosphere at shows, it's strange because it's like it's a room full of people, but yet I feel like I'm speaking one on one to people. So
Yeah.
it feels very intimate, even in large settings, in bigger venues. Um, yeah, I like that back and forth discourse. And I think at like the first show, there was like a mosh pit that started. And then I got all nervous. I'm like, oh, don't hurt each other. Um,
Oh,
I got real motherly. I'm like, be careful. But in terms of like approaching or the energy in the audience, I feel like there's just like waves of love coming at me. Like I remember the booking agent at the first show was like, I came off stage, he's like, I have never felt such a positive vibe at a show. And so I feel really charged and like I get really what's the word I'm looking for? Like I just feel very lucky and I feel that I gain energy from the crowd because they're just so lovely.
that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I've definitely gone to shows where you can feel that energy feeding off of each other, and then shows where maybe it struggles a lot more. Um, So it's always great to hear when when both audiences and performers have a positive experience, because I do think that it relies so much on the energy that like we as the audience bring.
Totally. And I mean, it I am a teacher, so it's not, I'm a professor and it's not unlike, the energy in a classroom. Like sometimes the energy is just super open and it's really easy. And sometimes the energy is really closed and you kind of have to like bring people out. But for the most part, I haven't had to work that hard because my fans are so awesome.
That's so sweet. I'm happy to hear that. And I was curious about how being a professor, how you feel like that experience translates to your stage presence and vice versa.
I think that just in teaching, as long as I have, I feel like I can really talk to anybody about anything. So nothing really shakes me. I kind of feel comfortable in front of a crowd of people because that's what I do for a living. Um, and I mean, obviously, there's always a little bit of nerves. Same with teaching. When I walk into a new class, I mean, I'm just like, "Ooh." uh, but yeah, so I think it's just made me more comfortable in my own skin and just, you know, being able, I realize teaching is about kind of exchanging energy and, you're your best teacher when the students sort of give back to you and I learn from them. And I feel like, it's leaning towards the most positive qualities of my teaching.
That's beautiful. So do you feel like those experiences, those lessons you've learned, like the way that you're able to feed off of each other or other people's energy, and be more confident in front of crowds has translated to other parts of your life?
I think I would say yes. And I think it's almost like kind of a perfect storm where all those little bubbles of my life, like a Venn diagram, you know how they have diagrams or circles like overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm kind of at a stage where I'm getting this nice synchronicity, synergy between those parts. So like I feel like who I am as a teacher, who I am as a visual artist, who I am as like a friend, who I am as a person on stage, who I am to a fan. It's just I'm I feel like I'm can be genuinely me. So I think there's a synchronicity or a synergy more than it affecting other things. It's just that I am kind of walking through each of these things more earnestly and honestly.
That's beautiful. I'm glad to hear that that's
Thank
become such a
you.
profound experience.
Yeah,
Um,
no, totally.
what do you most look forward to with performing live? And what sort of experience can fans expect from your show? Other than that, obviously, it seems like a huge community experience. And we're
I
all going to dance in the crowd,
I love it.
mosh even, but in a safe way,
In a safe in a safe and respectful way.
of
Um,
course.
yes. I think for me, the most wonderful thing is that energy exchange. And, meeting fans and like, you know, I don't know. It's really just about positive positive interactions. I which sounds, I don't know, it sounds a little bit Pollyanna, but uh yeah, no, that's my favorite thing about touring is just meeting the fans and playing and just sharing myself with them and then getting to receive in kind. That's probably the best thing about playing live.
That's awesome. I know that you've said in previous interviews that you um well grew up as like a fangirl and then um now you're kind of in a position where you have a fan base and maybe not to put words into your mouth, but are kind of adapting to this new, not a hierarchy per se, but like some sort of imbalance um, with like you being the performer and other people being the watcher. Does this, do you feel like you're able to overcome that like disconnect and still,
Hmm. Great question. Um, for me, it's really interesting because like in my visual work, I feel like I'm questioning structures or I'm trying to deconstruct any sort of hierarchies or power structures. Um, so I for me the most difficult thing is this sort of like hierarchy as you mentioned. And like I'm trying to square that circle, because for me I am uncomfortable with that, so I try to level the playing field as much as I possibly can.
yeah, for sure. Um, do you still get nervous for your performances, even though it does seem like you overall bring a more like communal or not communal but collaborative experience to the shows and the way that you describe them, the clips that I've seen online, they do seem like they're very just like kind of laid back fun events, fun for everyone involved. Do you still get nervous, and if so, like what, or do you have any practices that you do to overcome those jitters? Do you have any music you listen to hype yourself up to go on stage?
I do get nervous. I do get incredibly nervous. And then I think, once that first song is done, I kind of like settle in a little bit. I think for me, the best thing that I do is like the band will just like practice backstage a little bit before. And so just kind of getting warmed up definitely brings my confidence up a little bit. So I'm not just like, whoa, it's just starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I listen to anything. I just calmness. I think just being in a space of like not a lot of activity and just kind of like, settling in myself and doing a little practicing just so I feel like, ready to go. But yes, no, I get very nervous.
All right, and then going back to preparing your music to go on stage, what was the process like going back and adapting your songs? And I'll run through your discography in a little bit and when it all
Mhm,
came out, just for our listeners.
mhm.
But a large part of it you made in your 20s and early 30s, is that correct?
Uh, yes, that is correct.
So what was the process like going back and revisiting that and then adapting it to go to like be able to perform in front of crowds?
Super interesting. It's like meeting an old friend, and I think I had more of an appreciation than perhaps maybe I did before I restarted this venture. Um, and I didn't realize I was so prolific that I had so many songs. So, I was a little workhorse. Um, and so returning to it, I think I come at it from a different place in life, obviously. And so, for instance, I really love like singer-songwriter music. Like like Nick Drake or
Yup.
who's the person I'm thinking about? I'm blanking on his name. Jose Gonzalez.
Sure.
And so I was really thinking I wanted to play an acoustic guitar, and I really didn't know how it was going to shake out. If it was going to be like, okay, there'll be backing tracks, and then there'll be, or if I was just going to do acoustic guitar and me and just kind of really strip it back. And so I feel like I found a happy medium where there is acoustic guitars and some backing tracks. So I was able to kind of go through and like clean up, clean out the tracks. Um, for live because you got to leave a little bit of room for the guitars and other things. And um, so that was an interesting process. Also, I had to like retune all the songs because every song was in a different tuning. So, so for those that see me live, sometimes you'll see me like put the capo on and tune, and so that's a little challenging, but I think I've got it down to a fairly decent science.
Do you feel like your music comes out differently live? Because um obviously it's a bit more trip hop style. And then you said that you pull out like an acoustic guitar. How do you feel like that translates? Do you think it brings a different vibe, a different energy, or do you think that
I
yeah.
think, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I feel like I would love to be like have a split me in two and I can go watch the show
Yeah.
because I'm sort of like only I can only hear what's on stage and in the monitors. I think that it definitely creates a richer sound without competing. And I think the way that I play guitar and I have a second guitar player, Nils Bryant, and the way that we play our guitars, come up with parts. I mean, it's definitely like, in the similar vein as the originals. There's a lot of like, chords that are like super soft rock. So I'm not, it's, I wouldn't say it's guitar forward. I think it just kind of fills it out in service to what's already there.
Well, I definitely look forward to seeing that live. I'm gonna run through the Kitty Craft
Okay.
discography real quick. So you
Hmm.
came out with your EPs "It's Stupid" and "I Got Rules" in 1994 and 1997, respectively, and then your first album, "Beats and Breaks from the Flower Patch" in 1998, followed by "Catskills" in 2000, and then I had trouble verifying this, but Hello Kitty Craft, the EP, was released exclusively as a CD in 2004. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Good
I
job.
believe that there, thank you. I believe that there's one song from that, and I'm blanking on the name, but it hasn't been re-released yet.
Mm.
Plan on, let me see. Let me consult my notes. Do you plan on re-releasing that? You have the world at your fingertips.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure yet. I know there's going to be a third EP of like because I've been doing those volume one, volume two, volume three,
Yes.
kind of like there some of them are out, but bonus tracks in Japan, so I try to make a collection of either previously unreleased or like bonus tracks that never really had a push digitally.
Sure.
So I think there'll be one more. So my answer is a very strong maybe.
Okay. I'll hold on to that. Yeah, I only got halfway through discography there, so I'll keep going. In 2020, you released Lost Tapes, followed by Mew, 1996 to 2004 in 2022, and then most recently, Bits and Bobs from the Flower Patch, volumes 1 and 2 in February and July of this year.
Hmm.
Are here's my question. Are all of your releases in the last 5 years lost tracks or re-releases from 20 or so years ago? Or are you still making new music?
Thus far, I've been working with the back catalog, but I am writing new songs.
Yeah?
So yeah, got
Okay,
got the
that's
flower patch
exciting.
back together.
I love that. I would assume
Fantasy.
after a nearly 20-year break from your public music career, your relationship with making and performing music has changed a little bit over time. I heard you say in a KXLU interview from last year that you used beats and breaks from the Flower Patch as a way to decompress from a full-time job. You said you were working like 9 to 5, so come home exhausted and just needed like a way to get those emotions out. And Beats and Breaks came out of that, which is
Hmm.
beautiful. Do you still find that same comfort in making art, whether it's musical or visual or what have you? Or do you feel like your relationship has changed or your intention with it has changed in any way?
I think that thus far, like the visual art and the music at the moment seem to have their own lane. Although I
Sure.
can see parts starting to overlap a little bit, but I feel like my visual art is more like hits you in the mind and the music might you feel it in your body more.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very different, you know, experience with them. Um, and I'm just kind of letting it live organically. And if the two intersect, fantastic. And I am seeing little threads of interest from one into the other. Um, but I'm also okay with them having their own lane, you know?
Okay. I actually, that touched on my next question.
Mm.
So, your visual art tends to explore some pretty heavy and often political themes. For example, you somewhat recently completed a residency in Berlin where you worked on a project titled A Monument to a Monument, which was dedicated to drawing attention to a piece done by Agwebe.
Hmm.
Um, that was dismantled after a push from far right German groups. In an interview with Ear Coffee, you described how your Jewish German heritage influenced your passion for this project. How do
Hmm.
you feel like the message you relay through your music compares to your other disciplines of art? And do you ever feel like you're balancing different personas or parts of yourself? So you said that you feel like these have been kind of bleeding through and um, maybe influencing each other recently. I was hoping maybe you could expand on that.
I mean, that is the main question in my life, right? Like that is something that the the answer hasn't quite materialized. So, you know, for instance, at the moment, we're mailing stuff out for people that buy things like physical things. And, you know, I'm seeing there's this physical exchange. So, in that, like, I have these little cards, which are probably not even useful anymore, just about ice and what the exact part of law you can sort of understand or something to inform. It seems like we're kind of knee deep, and I don't even know if it's useful anymore, but a small effort on my part to just create community, create, disseminate information as best I can, because I really do feel like the Kitty Craft group is like, I feel very protective of my fans. I feel like I want to circle the wagons and like, do what I can. And in that way, I'm trying to see how they can touch without being super overt or really like, heavy-handed with it, heavy-handed with it. So I don't, that's again, squaring the circle.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest question mark in my head is like, before I started getting back into kittycraft, you're right, I was doing this kind of like conceptual work, multidisciplinary work. Um, And I'm just trying to be comfortable with it all. And like I said, I'm open to opportunities to create that community because I feel like right now the best thing I can do is just put my arms around people and like let them know they're not alone as best I can. Um, which feels like a political act today. Creating community feels like a political act. I think it's really important to have people you can rely on. And so I don't know if I answered the question. I sort of went off
No,
on a
you
tangent.
definitely did. Um, I think that you're definitely correct. At the end of the day, regardless of what you're addressing through your visual art and your musical art, you're building a community. You're putting your arms around people and telling them that they're not alone, that maybe you can relate, or at least there's people out there that can relate, that they're heard, that they're understood, and you're sharing information. So I think that all of these tend to just maybe be different avenues of doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I was a little apprehensive because I don't want to be like virtue signaling or anything like that. I really genuinely just want to disseminate. This is the first time I've really talked about it. I don't really mention that I've done that. Um, but yeah, so I'm trying to think of ways to create that community, to empower that community. And yeah.
Well, thank you for answering that.
Hmm.
Um, those are heavy topics,
I know.
obviously, but it's always so comforting to know that there are different communities out there, and there's like the artists that I play when I like need to listen to music while I do my homework or something, or just like in the car, cares about their fans and cares about building a community and has intention that even if it's not straightforward or like through the lyrics, it's positive. They're doing something. And I really appreciate that. I think that the sense of community in your music is so incredibly strong. And I've made so many friends just connecting over
Oh,
your music. I
love
don't mean
that.
to, yeah, but
That makes me happy.
um, it is. It's so fun. And I'm so looking forward to the concert because I
Oh
have
my
like
goodness.
all my baddies are going. It's going to be a lot
Yes.
of fun. But
Oh my goodness. I love it. Oh, yes. I love, love, love it. So I'm leaving the door open, and just kind of letting it evolve organically. And, you know, I'm not super focusing on my visual art because right now I feel like Kitty Craft is kind of taking my attention mostly, which is fine. And I've said many a time, like it's hard. Like when I'm focused, and for some reason I can't do both at the same time. I can't split my time. So I kind of will, put something on the back burner for a while. Um, and yeah. Mm.
no, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about beats and breaks specifically.
Mhm.
Um, well, I guess not specifically. I want to talk a little bit about that album and how it's influenced me.
Mm.
Um, I think, and your music in general, um, it really appeals to me. And I think a lot of people my age, I think that your fan base, at least from my perspective, seems to be like 20 something year olds. Um,
Hmm.
And maybe that's in part because a lot of it was made when you were that age or in your early 30s. I think that it really is evident in your sound because it comes off as very happy and upbeat, but also kind of carries very melancholy lyrics. And for me, at least, that's kind of hits home because it
Mm.
embodies like the magic and the mysticism as well as the like dread and exhaustion that comes from like being in a very uncertain part of my life.
Yes.
So I'm curious, as you've aged and established a career, a home, and maybe more gotten more comfortable with how you go through and approach life, do
Hmm.
you still feel connected to your original intention and message when you're performing and revisiting your old songs?
Um, I would say yes. I would say absolutely. And I think more than ever since I've started writing new music, I can really see the connection between where I was at. I feel like no matter where you are, everybody has things they're working on and working with, right? Like, the environment may have changed, but that doesn't mean that the game is over. Um, so I guess I could best answer this with thinking about the new stuff I'm doing compared to the old stuff. And I think, you know, I guess the way you describe the music is the way that, I think of myself, perhaps, there's a really cheery part of me, and then there's a really dark part of me. And I think the darker part of me gets a chance to roll out and like kvetch and whine a little bit when I write lyrics, particularly. Um, yeah, it's I don't know if I answered the question.
No, I believe that you did. Um, I want to talk a little bit about what you were saying. This is more so like a something that's been poking at me from one of your previous interviews.
Mm,
You described this philosophy that's kind of stuck with me,
mm,
um, about just having confidence in yourself and that you'll figure it out as you go. Whether that's a career or a skill or writing a song, you've emphasized the importance of trusting yourself and that you can figure it out, that there's might be no set path, but like that you just need to trust that you will figure it out, that you'll work it out. I was wondering if you could speak a bit on how you think this applies to the resurgence in your music career, and then also, if you're willing, maybe give us a few details about how the direction in which you're taking your new songwriting in
mm,
has changed from
mm-hmm.
previously.
So the first part, I feel incredibly passionate about that point. And it's something that I really repeat and try to drive home in my teaching because I feel like people, particularly now, just with everything going on, and there's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of self-doubt. And I think that the greatest thing you can figure out about yourself, and I see it in people, I see it in students, I see it in the people I meet, is that everybody's incredibly competent.
Mm.
Like, and I think we get in our heads a little bit that, you know, we get so afraid of failure that we become resistant to chance and risk. And I think that that can put you in a corner. And I think as you get older, from like Pam at like 20 to Pam now, is that I trust I can figure it out. It's not that I know everything. I just trust I'm like, okay, there's YouTube videos. I can ask
Yeah.
a person, so trying to convey that belief in oneself, and it perhaps sounds cheesy, is like the difference between standing in your own self-built corner and just really putting yourself out there. And failure is a part of it. That's okay, because then you figure something out. And I know that's people are like, oh, right, just figure something out. And it's really, I understand the how failure is repellent. you know? Um, but it's like if you're carving a wood sculpture, you don't go in and you're like the first cut is the last cut, right? You're like slowly peeling it away. You're finding it in there. That's a process. With anything I do, it's a process. And heck yeah, I fail at a lot of stuff, but it just helps me go, okay, well, I need to pivot. So being able to pivot and trusting yourself. And another thing is like, I think we self-limit a lot. Um, uh, like for instance, a friend of mine is looking for a new job and I sent them a link to something and they're like, I don't think I'm a good fit for that. And I'm like, you know what? That's not up to you. That's not up to you to say. You don't know what they're looking for. So you just apply. And because I thought this person was very right for the job. But I think we can do these self-limiting things like we get anxiety, like, well, I don't have that and that. And I've sat on hiring committees before. So like I really know, and I've been interviewed. So I understand that sometimes what's on paper, they're really emphasizing this other thing, or it's really not up to you to say you're not qualified.
So you say go for it. Just try it
Go
out.
for it. Yeah. And you just don't know. And so when people are like, I'm not going to do it, I'm like, well, that's not up for you to decide.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That speaks to me as a senior in college.
Yes.
Um, it's so nice to hear that perspective. Um, do you feel like when you went through, I don't know if that's a great way to word it, do you feel like going through life that it sort of followed a linear path, or are you just kind of somewhere you totally didn't expect to be? I mean, I guess maybe it's more of a circle, what we're looking at now with like
Mm.
going back to the kitty craft, but
Um, I have never sort of followed a linear narrative, nor do I think most people. I think there's this expectation that life is a linear narrative.
yeah, for
In
sure.
reality, it's a loop-de-loop of craziness. Another thing that I think is a wonderful thing about people in the United States is that we are very comfortable with thinking outside the box. And other cultures don't necessarily have that mental freedom because there's just such a long history and there's expectations put on you. And I think that's a real gift. So, have I tried the well-worn ways of doing stuff? Absolutely. Did they work? No. And so I kind of made opportunities for myself. Again, I just figured stuff out. And um, those have tended to be the most successful when I sort of, you know, like I said before I kind of hooked up with this booking agent, I was like, okay, I'll just rent a space. Like I didn't know anybody in the music scene. I've been especially in LA, you know, and I was just trying to figure it out. And then, someone Minty Boy came in and have been very lovely and supportive and had a vision and things that perhaps I didn't have. Um, but yeah, it's just you just figure it out. And I know that sounds so simple.
Maybe it can be.
I hope so. I hope so. And I really want to, and even on a very macro, like macro micro level, on a micro level, it's like in school, take that class that you're interested in but unsure of. Uh, reach out to that club that you really like, but you're not sure, you feel a little bit intimidated by. It's like, you know, trust yourself, or that project that you've been like, because I know all of you, and I'm looking at the crowd behind the microphone that might be
Mhm.
listening to this is you do have a project you're thinking about and you have kind of talked yourself out of it. What if you just did it? You know what it looks like if you don't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know exactly what that looks like. So what happens if you just tried it?
So going back to music making then,
Hmm.
do you feel like you're exploring any new avenues? Do you feel like your life has, I know I just called it a circle a few minutes ago, but I'm going to eat my words and say, obviously, you've changed
Hmm. Hmm.
since um, when you started releasing Kitty Craft music. Do you feel like you're trying out anything new? Um, in the most vague sense, I guess I'm asking that, but
I
exploring any new directions,
hmm.
have any new influences, intentions that you're like looking forward to and would like to share?
I think that I've got sea legs, right? Like I've had to really start from scratch because when I kind of shelved doing music, the world has completely changed, including all technical,
Yeah.
right? So I've had to like re-educate myself and relearn what the new platforms are and like, ugh. You know, but there's YouTube and friends. In terms of like where I'm going with it, I would say I'm in the process of kind of rebuilding the infrastructure of it. And so I'm not having any expectations necessarily. I'm kind of like letting it just kind of unfold. And so if anything, I think that I'm kind of like more comfortable with my guitar music versus like loops. Because it
Okay.
and because when I first started Kitty Craft, it was like me on a guitar on a 4 track, and then it just sort of evolved right into what Beats and Breaks was. And so I'm kind of like seeing the value of both approaches. Well, before, like when I did Beats and Breaks, I'm like, oh my guitar music's dead to me. You know, like it just I was so focused, and I'm like, this is where my head's at. Where now that I've gone back and I've looked, I really see a lot of interesting things there. So I'm just kind of like letting my sea legs kind of like get under me and get some some structure um and not trying to have a preconceived notion, but really working intuitively.
Do you feel
So
like your oh, sorry,
no,
do you
go
want to
ahead.
keep going?
Go ahead. You're
Do you
good.
feel like your inspirations have changed?
I mean, um, yes and no, because I think that when people ask me, I get a lot of DMs of, people saying, hey, I want to make music and, where do I start? And I always think my mindset is make music that you want to listen to, that you would enjoy listening to. And I feel like if you hold that as your yardstick, I think you're good to go. So in that sense, I still, I know myself, like I really like hypnotic, you know, repetitive things. I think the brain really responds well to that kind of repetition and the flow of things. So in that I think I'm exactly the same in terms of external influences. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a bubble because and I I'm not terribly informed to be honest. Like my mind is so like fractured from the last 5 years and what's happening that you know, I just listen to jazz.
Yeah.
And I love jazz and I love the flow of jazz. Am I a jazz musician? Heck no. I'm not that good, but it's kind of I'm just making music I want to listen to, and it might sound dated and it might sound current, and I have no idea, but I'm not trying to assess that.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as you're making music that feels authentic to you. Clearly, that's worked with your fans in the past.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But you beat me to my question,
Oh.
although I might want to repeat it because I'm
Mhm.
really curious. So, you did say that you've just been listening to jazz pretty much exclusively recently. Can do you is jazz music influencing your music at all?
Um, no.
No.
No, I mean, if I do tend to like the more mellow, like hypnotic jazz. Um, like I just got a vinyl that I listened to digitally, but I just wanted it on vinyl, like Pharoah Sanders. I think it's, what is it called? Thursday Afternoon. I like really kind of like, and that goes for all music. I really like low key tempo music. I was also listening to this band called Gas, which was really interesting. And I have a collection of theirs. I'm not sure if it's a band or one person, but they take loops and they slow them down. So it kind of creates this like very like a hypnotic hum, a hypnotic. It was very low key, low tempo, but it was super interesting. So I think the kind of physical interaction I have with music is the same. It might, the genre might change, but what I like is very similar.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hmm.
Um, I really look forward to hearing the future directions in which your music is going to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Pando. I'm interested as well. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Oh, for sure. Um, I am curious. I want to go back to something you said earlier about about the overlap of your visual art with your music. And I touched on this already, but to be more specific, at your shows, um, or just like in your releases, do you incorporate any of your visual art? Like,
Hmm.
oh, what's it called? Like the projections, the wall behind you. I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking on what you would call that at the um, concerts. Is that your art?
No, it's not
It
mine.
didn't look like it. I didn't.
No, it's not mine. It's a collection of like vintage early experimental animation from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Okay.
And so it's like, yeah, it's there really early animation is so beautiful and so interesting. And I I like the flow of it. I like the abstractness of it. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what that is. In terms of my own work, the cover for Lost Tapes is actually a drawing I did.
Okay.
I'm not sure people know that's a drawing. There's also when you open it up, there's like shoes and stuff. So I did a series of like poltergeist drawings, and that's a scene of a poltergeist throwing shoes around.
Okay. Are you when you say when you open it up, is are you talking
Like
about like
open
this?
up the CD, uh,
Okay.
open up the record, or no, does the record have it? So Lost Tapes and Catskills was just released on vinyl, so it's a double album.
Okay.
And yeah, I can't remember what the inside is. I'm not sure if those shoes are on there. Anyway, so for those that are interested, go out and ask your local record store for Catskills and Lost Tapes. You get a good deal, a twofer. Um, but yeah, and I'm also playing with like clip art. Like I love clip art. Some of the early stuff I've done, back in the day, I did a lot of clip art. So that's been really fun to like get back into. It's just a hoot. I love it. Um, yeah. So I'm enjoying returning to some things. I think I enjoyed making the cover for Lost Tapes. Um, so we'll see. We'll see how my visual art. Um, I mean, I'm definitely a visual thinker. So everything that I think about, is through the lens of this wackadoo brain. Um, yeah. I'm just kind of sitting back and letting it connect or not connect organically. I'm not trying to have agenda.
That's wonderful. Authentic.
Oh, thank you.
Take See where it takes you. I look forward to it. Okay. I have just one more question.
Okay.
What's your favorite flower? Just
Ooh,
something I like to ask people. I think it says a lot about someone.
I am a huge gardener. I
You
um
are the
I
flower
am
patch, if you will.
I know, right? Prophetic. Like I'm a double Virgo, so having my feet and hands in earth is like,
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
thank you. I appreciate that. Um, uh, yeah, it was so what's my favorite flower? Gosh.
I really thought you would have one, like off the top of your
Well,
head.
there's
I
so
thought you'd be able to
many.
be like Morning Glory. That was my bet. My bet was Morning Glory. Something
I
about it. It is a September. Oh, well, you're in August, Virgo, aren't you?
I'm an August
Okay.
31st. I'm a double Virgo with a Capricorn moon, so for those who know. If you know, you know. Um, I would say, in a way, at the moment, I would say jasmine.
Yeah.
Yeah, jasmine,
St-
because the smell, the
yeah.
sensory experience is just dynamite. I
It's
like flowers that
incredible.
smell good.
Star Jasmine's my favorite.
Star jasmine, I've got a few going. Morning glories, I just on walks, I like to if there's like plants growing in areas, I'll like snap a little part off and then I'll try to root it. And I've got some morning glories rooting. I'm trying to get some morning glories going. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah. So yeah, maybe just and it's sort of not overly showy. It's a little bit awkward. The jasmine, like, does it want to be a trellis plant? Does it want to be a
Mm,
bush? Does it want to be a tree? It's a bit unassuming, but the smell is just
mm,
so intoxicating.
for sure. I don't know if you've ever been to Charleston in South Carolina,
Oh, I haven't.
but oh my God. I lived there for a little bit and just like in the spring, the whole city smells like jasmine. It's intoxicating. It's my favorite thing ever.
I think my first experience with that for when I was really young, my parents moved to Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland. I lived in Silver Spring, Maryland for like, I don't know, 2, 3 years. It wasn't very long, but I do
Okay.
remember that the cherry blossoms in the spring, like in Washington
Oh,
and Maryland, like I
yeah.
just remember as a very young person, like this amazing smell. And maybe that's you know, got me going and the addiction started. But I do remember, so I know what you're talking about. It's a
The
very
urge to visit the
intoxicating.
flower patch.
It's
Um,
some I do think sometimes and I see later on I see synchronicities. Like for instance, the first song, I think part five on Beats and Breaks in the Flower Patch.
yeah.
Uh, the first line of the lyric on part five is like lost train to LA.
Hmm.
How did I know I'd end up in LA? No,
Yeah.
it was, and so like I look at those things, I'm like, ooh, well, I didn't think of that. Like I had no inkling that I would ever move to LA. And here I am, and I'm loving it here.
So before when I said you're native to Minneapolis, was that true?
Well, I've kind of done this slow crawl westward.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's influenced your maybe even outlook on life to be more broad, but music,
Yeah. Oh,
your
yeah.
art?
Yes, yes. 100%. I feel like, I spent most of my life in Minnesota. So grew up there. I think I moved there when I was 7.
Okay. Okay.
My dad got a job out there. But yeah, I think like I was born in New Jersey. My parents are from
Oh.
Brooklyn.
Oh, my facts were so wrong. Okay.
Well, no, that's
Well,
okay. I
I
mean,
I know at least on your Spotify page it says that Lost Tapes came out when you moved to LA, which is now your forever home.
yes, yes. If I ever move, it's because we all have to move.
Ah, so
In
what
fact,
really draws you to the area then?
gosh, well, I'm done with winter. I think I've put my time in. So I think that people are really, really lovely here. And people like there's really great things and then there's really challenging things. I think the weather is wonderful. I think people are very accepting. I think a lot of people move to California at large because they're looking to be more themselves a little bit because it's like more accepted here.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. Where I think in, living in Minneapolis, there's a little bit more self-awareness you have to have, where here it's like people are just unapologetically themselves. And I really, really, really love that.
I'm glad to hear that. Do you feel like you've still been able to find a community there?
That's more difficult. And I think that if there's ever a criticism of LA is that it's really hard to build your tribe. And that's been a slower burn. But I think it's interesting how, at least this is in my head, what I've thought is like, everything is actually really pretty far away from each other, you know? It's not like a walking city per se, like New York. And so you are in your car a lot, right? And you to get from place to place. So there's this kind of like um cloistered, you're in your car, you go to a place. So there it's just and I feel like the social network is kind of similar in that way. It's not that I haven't met wonderful people, and I've met wonderful creative people. There's really a great community of creatives here. Great visual artists, great musicians.
I've
Um,
heard.
yeah, yeah, totally. I'm super impressed and inspired by the creatives I meet. But it's just like everybody's like busy, and it's just like, you know, if someone lives on the west side, I'm never going to see you again. You might as well live in another country. So it's hard. It's just hard. So you have to be a bit self-reliant. And I think it can be really hard for those. Like you have to kind of face some demons in that, which you have to be prepared to do that, to spend a lot of alone time.
Okay, that's understandable. How long have you been there there now?
I've moved there. I'm here now 11 years. I moved here in
Okay.
2014.
Yeah, that's a big change.
It was, and I think for the first year, you're just kind of like spinning. Like it's just so new and different and exciting and confusing and took me like a full year to get my feet under me, I think. So for people who are thinking about moving here, just know that you're going to be freaked out for a year and then
Well,
it's
I'm
down.
I'm glad that it's calmed down.
Yes, it's calmed down.
All right, well, is there anything that you'd like to add? Are there any topics I didn't touch on that you're trying to get the point across?
Just a big shout out and just a big hello and a warm hug to folks that are already coming to the show. And for those, I hope to meet you through the interwebs. Um, and I'm just really appreciative and of all the attention and interest in my my creativity and what I'm doing. So thank you. Thank you for giving me that part of your brain, that space in your brain.
Thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been Pando for WKNC talking with Pamela Valfer of Kittycraft. Goodbye, everyone.